There's a mood building inside NASCAR right now that longtime fans say they haven't felt in years. It shows up in the garage chatter, it shows up on social media, and it shows up every single race weekend. Something is happening in this Cup Series season that has drivers talking, fans arguing, and a lot of people asking the same question. Are we watching one of the most dominant stretches of performance in recent memory, or is there something deeper going on behind the curtain? That question has turned into one of the loudest storylines of the entire year. Whenever a small group of teams starts dominating week after week, scrutiny follows. Some of that scrutiny is fair. Some of it veers into pure speculation. But all of it is shaping how fans are watching the back half of this season unfold. The closer the sport gets to the playoffs, the louder this conversation becomes, and it's worth slowing down and actually breaking apart what's being said, what's been confirmed, and what's still just theory. So let's get into it properly. As the 2026 Cup Series season pushes past its midpoint, one storyline has taken over nearly every conversation in the garage. It centers on two drivers who have completely separated themselves from the rest of the field. Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin have combined to win 9 of the season's first 16 races. Stop and actually sit with that number for a second. More than half of every race run so far this year has ended with one of these two men in victory lane. That isn't just a hot streak. That's the kind of run that forces every other team in the garage to take notice, recalibrate, and start asking how it's happening. What makes the story even more interesting is the relationship between these two drivers. Reddick drives for 23XI Racing. Hamlin drives for Joe Gibbs Racing. On paper, these are two separate organizations competing against each other every Sunday. But everyone in the sport understands there's a tight connection between them through their shared manufacturer, Toyota. And that connection has become the center of one of the most heated debates in the sport this year. According to multiple reports coming out of race weekends, a handful of rival drivers have reportedly pushed NASCAR officials to take a harder look at how these two organizations function together. Among the names said to be the most vocal in raising these concerns are Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, and Joey Logano. That matters because these aren't drivers looking for an excuse after a bad finish. These are proven, championship-level competitors who've spent years inside this sport and generally don't speak up unless they believe something is worth questioning. It's important to be precise about what the concern actually is. Nobody serious is arguing that Reddick or Hamlin lack talent. Both are elite, both have championship pedigree, and both have earned every bit of respect they get on raw skill alone. The real question being whispered in the garage is whether the relationship between 23XI Racing and Joe Gibbs Racing extends further than what's visible to the public. One veteran competitor was quoted, in essence, saying that after watching the numbers pile up race after race, particularly following the stretch around Pocono, it's become hard for anyone in the garage to simply look away. When two organizations tied together through the same manufacturer pipeline start winning at this rate, people naturally start hunting for explanations. And that's where one particular theory has taken hold inside the paddock. Some insiders have started referring to the situation, informally, as something resembling a hidden operational merger. Now, this needs to be stated as clearly as possible. There is no evidence of wrongdoing here. None. No official NASCAR investigation has been opened. No findings have been published. No penalties have been issued. This is, at this stage, nothing more than a theory circulating among competitors and insiders. But the theory itself has become a major topic of conversation, and that alone is worth examining. The idea floating around is that 23XI Racing and Joe Gibbs Racing might be functioning less like two fully independent 6-car, or rather, combined 6-car operations under one manufacturer, and more like a single coordinated super team. The speculation suggests these organizations could be sharing engineering insight, setup data, simulation results, and race strategy at a level that goes well beyond a standard technical alliance, giving Toyota as a whole a significant structural advantage over Chevrolet and Ford. Again, that is speculation. Nothing here has been confirmed. But it's the conversation dominating garage talk right now, and ignoring it wouldn't tell the full story of this season. What's made the discussion even louder is the way the year has actually played out on track. Early in the season, Tyler Reddick looked nearly unbeatable. Race after race, he was racking up wins, building a comfortable points cushion, and establishing himself as the clear favorite heading toward the postseason. For a stretch of weeks, it genuinely felt like the rest of the garage was simply chasing the 2311 program and hoping to close the gap. Then the momentum shifted. Over the past several weeks, it's been Denny Hamlin and the number 11 team at Joe Gibbs Racing who have completely taken over as the hottest operation in the sport. Suddenly Hamlin is the one collecting trophies. Hamlin is the one setting the pace in practice and qualifying. Hamlin is the one every other crew chief is trying to figure out how to beat. And that shift, one team surging, cooling off, and the other team surging right behind it, is exactly what's caught the attention of rival teams. Some competitors believe the timing of this back-and-forth dominance looks unusual. One driver was quoted essentially saying that speed alone isn't the concern. The concern, in their words, is the pattern. One camp gets hot, then the other camp gets hot, almost like a relay. To some observers in the garage, that pattern feels coordinated. Whether that perception holds up to any real scrutiny is still completely unproven, and it's worth repeating that no formal evidence has surfaced to support it. But you can understand why the chatter keeps spreading. If you're competing for a Ford team or a Chevrolet team and you're watching Toyota-aligned organizations combine to win more than half the races on the schedule, you're going to want answers, fair or not. For what it's worth, neither 2311 Racing nor Joe Gibbs Racing has issued any public statement addressing these allegations directly. NASCAR, for its part, has not announced any formal investigation into the matter. As of right now, there's no indication of any official action being taken. But there's another layer to this story that has people in the garage talking just as much as the win totals themselves. And honestly, this might be the most unusual detail in the entire storyline. Ty Gibbs and Bubba Wallace have been noticeably quiet. If you've followed this sport for any stretch of time, you know exactly why that stands out. Both of these drivers have built reputations for speaking candidly, sometimes bluntly, whenever controversy enters the conversation. Neither one is typically the type to stay silent when something is stirring inside the sport. Agree with them or not, Ty Gibbs and Bubba Wallace usually aren't shy about sharing where they stand. Yet as scrutiny around this Toyota alliance has intensified, neither driver has made any meaningful public comment on the subject. That silence, intentional or not, has only added more fuel to the speculation already swirling in the garage. One rival driver reportedly suggested that if anyone would normally have something to say about a situation like this, it would be those two specifically. Their decision to stay quiet has left some competitors wondering exactly what's happening behind closed doors, even if there's a perfectly reasonable explanation that has nothing to do with any alleged alliance at all. Now, it's worth stepping back and adding some context that often gets lost in moments like this. Technical alliances are not new in NASCAR. Manufacturer-supported programs working closely together are not new in NASCAR. Organizations sharing resources, data, and personnel under the same manufacturer umbrella has existed in this sport for a long time, and it's allowed under the current rulebook. Toyota Racing Development has long supported its teams collectively, and that kind of cooperation isn't, by itself, evidence of anything improper. Simply performing well together doesn't automatically mean rules are being broken. At the same time, it's also human nature, and competitive nature, for scrutiny to rise the more dominant a group becomes. That's true in every sport, not just racing. The more races you win, the more questions get asked about how you're winning them. And right now, no combination in the garage is drawing more attention than Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, 2311 Racing, Joe Gibbs Racing, and Toyota as a manufacturer. Here's the bottom line on the numbers alone. 9 wins out of 16 races is not something that can be brushed aside or explained away in a single sentence. Whether fans want to credit elite driving talent, superior engineering, sharper preparation, flawless execution on pit road, manufacturer-wide support from Toyota, or some blend of all of those factors, the results on the track speak for themselves regardless of the explanation behind them. And with the playoffs approaching with every passing week, this conversation shows no signs of slowing down. If anything, expect it to get louder. If Reddick and Hamlin keep winning at anything close to this pace heading into the postseason, the pressure on NASCAR to formally examine how these two organizations operate together and whether rival concerns carry any real weight is only going to increase. For fans, this has turned into one of the most compelling storylines of the entire season, precisely because there isn't a clean, simple answer. Are we genuinely watching two elite drivers performing at the absolute peak of their careers at the same time? Are we watching Toyota, as a manufacturer, simply out-executing the competition through superior resources and coordination? Or is there something about the structural relationship between 2311 Racing and Joe Gibbs Racing that genuinely deserves a closer, more formal look from NASCAR itself? Those are the exact questions circulating through the garage right now, and until another team or another manufacturer starts consistently beating these two operations on a regular basis, don't expect this conversation to quiet down anytime soon. One thing, though, is completely certain regardless of how any of this speculation eventually resolves. Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin have become the defining story of the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season. Whether fans are cheering for them or hoping desperately to see someone else break through, these two have forced the entire garage, every broadcast, and every fan conversation to revolve around them. And in a strange way, that's exactly what keeps this sport compelling year after year. Every season produces a new mystery. Every season produces new rivalries, new tension, and new questions that don't have easy answers. Right now, this Toyota debate sits right at the center of it all, and it's shaping up to be one of the defining talking points of the entire 2026 campaign as the season heads toward its most important stretch.